Hello, everybody. Michael McGinnis here, and the band is almost back in full formation here. We have Bruce back, a survivor now, we can label him. Yes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we're going to hear from him a little bit just to give us an update. But tonight's topic, and we have a topic tonight. Isn't that interesting, right? The last couple, I don't think we did. So, we really have a topic tonight. And it's really, we've talked a lot about healing, just the concept of healing, remote healing, so on and so forth. But it's real, and that's the essence from us, everything we've seen. But what tips do we have? What little technique do we have? Can we share with you? Because it sounds like a big topic. Imagine just Googling, and you'll see, things out there from A to Z. And so, what we'll have a chance to each share is what's been a couple of the healing techniques that we've discovered along the way that stuck and that we continue to use for ourselves and for others. So without further ado, we'll start with Bruce, who thankfully I started the recording after he showed his wounds. Because that changed it now back to a G rating, here. And actually, probably what would it be? I think it's a D rating for Dumb and Dumber, right? Is that? Yes, and I'm not meaning you, Bruce. No, you're the exception.
We could be pushing that envelope. I'm not sure.
Okay, all right, you're on, Senor Bruce.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate your concern and prayers for my well-being. Did have a major surgery. As far as surviving, I really have no idea how close to death I was. I mean, it's hard to know when you're so heavily sedated, but I did survive. And
So you think you're alive now?
I think so. You can never be sure about such things, but
We'll go with it. Go ahead.
yeah, for now, it's a great green bag, if nothing, a brain bag, if nothing else, green. You see the many tea leaves behind me. I had to read them all before I could feel sustained enough to rejoin the band here.
Right.
But yes, I survived the surgery. I was out of it for quite a number of days. And then I just instinctively decided it was time to start on my healing process. I knew I needed to get out of bed, and at least sit in a chair for a while and start walking. Everything was gingerly done. But I started doing some laps around the hospital and, at least twice a day. So I guess I realized I went through a lot. I went through at least a good hour or so of level 10 pain, and I was sedated, but I know that I went through a great deal of pain, and I know that had an effect upon me. And I think it was for the better, actually. I feel like it was a crucible, and that I passed through successfully, and I came out the other side a better person for it and better fit mentally. I seem to be thinking more clearly. I seem to find it easier to stay in the moment. And so it was easy for me to get my brain around the concept of making myself heal, choosing to heal as quickly as possible. And doing everything they told me to do, plus everything I could think to do. Now, I was on a lot of medication, so I wouldn't say that I felt normal enough to actually do what I consider to be a normal meditation. I tried to make sure I was connected. I tried to connected to Mother Earth, Father Sky, and to Spirit. I tried to make sure that was the minimum and about all I could manage to do while in the condition. I was in the hospital for about little over 2 weeks, and I got better as time went on. So I guess the technique for me would be making sure that I was not ever distracted from being positive in my thinking about my healing. It was, and it wasn't with difficulty, that's what I'm trying to say. I was able to maintain that focus. I guess I did feel a really strong connection with Spirit and, you know, the source, and I never lost that. My doctor said that, of course, the surgeon said that they were very pleased that I was working as much as I was, but they were really pleased. I was able to do that. He said we were all very pleased about that. So that's just anecdotal evidence of that my mind, and that was within 5 days of the surgery. So I guess that's a good indication of my state of mental being. So that's all I can think of right at the moment.
Pretty good.
It is good. And Bruce, so what helped to keep you, keep you focused is the question, because I'm thinking about the pain, and I remember calling you at the hospital, and that was obviously just top of the list for you. In addition was the medication. So you had that factor, of course, you had to be in and out, other things. So how, was there anything you did specifically that helped you be able to focus?
Well, yeah, I know that you said that you called me early on, and I have no memory of that phone call. So obviously you were getting the unfiltered information from me at the time, and I guess pain was at the top of the list. But in fact, I do still have a little bit of pain. I call it my belly aching, but when I talk about it, but it's, at that point in time, there was no technique. That was just instinct at that time when I spoke with you. There was no conscious thought of step, get point A to point B. That came later. So, but what did come later was a little more clarity and being able to, like I say, just feel the connection, feel grounded, feel connected with Spirit.
So do you have like a particular pet prayer or a mantra or?
Well, I think we lost you for a second there, Michael. A prayer, technique, I guess, a meditation. I don't know if I've mentioned here before that I am a Reiki practitioner. So I feel Reiki energy, and it's, Reiki, life force, ki, chi, whatever, is the universal energy. It's the high vibration of Spirit. And if you feel that, and I feel like I've got access to that. Everybody's got access to it, but I feel it. and it's easy for me to tap into that. So technique, I guess, of just doing that.
Just a matter of remaining open to whatever may be available to you.
Yes. Yes. And I feel like it's all, I'm pretty sure during the surgery it was available to me, and I probably accessed it without knowing it at a total subconscious level. But my gut is telling me that I did access.
Yeah.
Well, I think one thing you did prior to your surgery was a technique in preparation.
Oh,
Because,
yeah.
and that sometimes is a part of the process. Is at any given point you prepare yourself, prepare the ground, so to speak, for the harvest. And it's like your life is a technique. I mean, I know that you're a Reiki. I don't know if you would call yourself a master, Reiki master, or whatever. There's levels to that, I think. But you use that, and that ongoing use prepares your body and your spirit for the event when it comes.
Yes.
So there's a preparation ahead of time for whatever comes.
Yes, exactly. In just the same way, I did extra speed walking. I had my legs in really good shape. So when the time came to get out of bed and start walking, I was already a step ahead in that regard. That I could tell that helped me. My ankles were strong, my feet were strong, my calves were stronger. So I felt like that, so in the same way, yes, you're right.
Very good. Nice. So, Tom, you said you had a couple of techniques.
Yeah, well, something somewhat similar, but a specific. This uh, came through back in the period I mentioned before, when I was having a lot of openings, and from that experience, these exercises just sort of came. It was like a gift from wherever. And one of them relates to, I think, what you're talking about, Bruce. The exercise goes like this. There's a breathing process. And there's a couple of different ways that I have done it. But I'm going to try just a simple version of this. And I'll explain it by saying we're going to be doing in breaths, and we can try it together, actually. In breaths and out breaths. So the first that we're going to do is going to be an out breath, because you need to empty before you can receive. You got to receive a full breath, you need to expel the air. And also, it's the idea of emptying yourself in order to receive what we need. So we're going to empty. Imagine that you're breathing out through your back, just like the center of your back, on the opposite end of your heart. As you breathe out, and I'll just explain it first, and then we'll try it. So if you breathe out, and you'll just kind of like that, just empty out as much as you can, all your thoughts, all your worries, all of your complications, anything really. Just empty yourself to the point of. Yeah. So it'll be an out breath, and then the next in breath will be through the top of the head, and that will be the spirit filling you up. And so it's like, and then you're filled up with everything. You empty and then you fill. So you fill with all knowledge or all wisdom or all power or whatever that would be for your highest good. So it's empty, and then feel it as you do it. So you would be feeling spirit pouring into you and filling you. And then the next breath is an out breath again, of course, through the heart. And what you do at this point is that you send that you have received out to all, to everyone, everything. And it's like an affirmation of giving. So the first breath was a letting go or expelling, receiving spirit, out breath of sending love out to all that is as an affirmation of that which you've received, but also as an act of creation. So it's the idea is that you empty, you fill with spirit, and you create through spirit to everything. It's like the creation act, but through love. And the next breath is from your feet up from the earth, which supports the work that you're doing, or that which you are expressing, that which you are giving, is supported from the earth, from nature, from the earthly, from minerals, from food, from air, water, and all of those things. So the work that all the love that you've expressed and that you've given out through your heart is supported from the earth, and so it nurtures you and fills you up and emboldens you to be able to do the work. And then the next breath again is out through the back where you empty again. So you let it all go and start off. Receive the next spirit. Create, affirm through love. Get nurtured from the earth. Receive the earth. Receive the nurturance of nature, and then breathe out through the back again and empty. So it's a cycle. You're continuing to do that. And I have done this. I do this before I do any of the readings that I do. I do this before I do healing work. It's part of my healing. I do this basically anytime I'm doing anything really that I feel is important. You know, everything is, I guess. But any kind of spiritual work is a way for me to allow myself to be aligned with the breath. And we talked about the breath, I think, last time, that the word is the breath, and the word of God, or the energy of God, is basically. So it's aligning myself with that. So if you'd like to try it, I could just sort of guide us through it. So I will just say, let's breathe out from the back, and then we'll go through that process. You want to try it?
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll prepare ourselves. Just find, get yourself centered and still. And so obviously we have to take an in breath to get started. Just let it all go through the back. Let everything empty out. Receive spirit through the top of your head. Big in breath. Let it out through the heart, through love, to affirm your being and healing for all. Breathe in through your feet and receive the nurturance of the earth. Breathe it out. Breathe through the top of the head. Breathe it out. Affirm love. Breathe in through your feet and feel the nurturance of the earth. Release it. Give it away. Give it back. Receive spirit and fullness. Affirm love and create. Breathe in from the earth and be nurtured for your work. Breathe out and release. Empty yourself. Start as an open channel. Receive spirit through the top of the head. Affirm that. Create. Receive the energy of the earth. Empty out and receive spirit. Okay. So just breathe out, breathe in. And each time, just, be aware of which part of that cycle you're in. So the first one is to empty out. And you take a breath, full breath for, what do we call it? The first move. You got to have air. So you just take it from wherever. You can start with spirit if you want, and then empty that out. So if you want to take a big deep breath of spirit, and then empty it out, then you're going to go back to spirit and breathe it in, and then breathe it out through the heart and up through the feet and out the back. So each time I do it, another aspect of that usually will come. And then I will, the next part of that is, after you've done that, maybe 4 or 5 or 6 times, however many feels appropriate for you, you will probably get a vision. Or you'll be open from spirit. If you're working with someone and there's information to be had, information might be needed, that's where I get it. And I'll get symbols, I'll get a picture, I'll get a voice, whatever form it happens to come in. And sometimes it's symbolic imagery, sometimes it's a picture or a scene. I'll see things. And I don't know if other people, if it's a technique that came to me and I use, and I don't know that I've shared it as specifically like this before, but it may be useful for someone else. It helps me. The other one of that I'll share is a very, very simple one. And I call it the yes-no exercise. And all you do is you start out and you could either start with no, and I think that's in similar manner to releasing. I start out with no, but you can also start with yes. So, and when you do the yes, I'll stand back. You kind of bend over, and well, let's try it the other way first. I'm going to cancel out the negative first. So what I do is that I bend over and make it kind of a cross like this with my hands, and I say no. It's like no, and I can also do this. And when I do this, I make like I'm in a huddle, and I put my hands on my knees like this, and I'll rock back and forth. And I'll say no, 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 no. And I say it with authority. I'm saying no to all the negatives or all the things I want to release. And then when I get through with that, I'll cross my hands out like this and then raise them up like this, standing up and looking up and feeling, being erect, looking up and saying yes, and affirming the things I want to say yes to. So it's no, no, no. And things will come up in your mind that you want to say no to, the habits or the people in your life or the circumstances that complicate you. So no to those things. No to hurting other people. No to the things that are afflicting us and society. And then yes. So you do several of those, yes, until you really feel invigorated and affirmed. So you're releasing and affirming. So those two kind of work together, and they're very simple to do. So, and since this is recorded, somebody can take that and work with it, develop their own parts of it, or, it's evolved for me over time. So, I mean, I've added other parts to this. We talked about sound, I think last time, maybe, or the time before. And one thing I've added lately is when I'm doing I came up with this idea of vowel sounds that kind of work with this breathing thing. So on the spirit, I have done an in and an out breath for each one. So for instance, with spirit, with the top of the head, I will breathe out and say yes, like I did with this other one, yes. And then I will simply receive, like in the previous exercise. So it's yes. So I'm affirming yes to spirit. And then on heart, I'll say, ah, just the sound. And I came up with sounds basically that are sort of emotional to relate to, what would I say if I'm in love? So it's kind of like, embracing and loving and making a sound from that. And then from the earth, I will breathe out and I'll give to the earth. So each one of these has a giving and receiving for each of those 4 things that we did. Giving love, and then receiving love, and then breathing to the earth, breathing into the earth, my energy, my love. And I'll say, just the close M sound. What you would say if you were just like, really, that was a great meal. That was good. That was so tasty. And then breathe in the support back from the earth, and then breathe out is the emptying again, but this time it's like, I know that when I'm in pain or when I've got something going on, it's not so that I don't want to hold on to it. Sometimes it's kind of a natural sound that kind of comes with that. Empty out, let go of it, and then receive that which you've given away, that all of that's cleared up, because spirit clears all that. Once we give it away, it's just stuff, and there's nothing but stuff. Basically, it's just misappropriated us. We've clouded it all. We've formed ideas about it. So it's just experience. And so we receive then that let go stuff that's like a yard sale of spiritual energy, a flea market of spirit. And you say, well, that might be something there useful, that somebody let go of, or I let go of. I might learn something from that. So, and then, yes. And I say yes to that emptying, or yes to spirit. Yes, I'm ready. And I receive it and start over.
Well,
Very
Tom, I
good.
wanted to expand just a little bit. When you mentioned breathing out through the heart, you said you're giving love to all.
To all that is, giving love to everything, which covers us all, right?
Right. So when I think of all, I think of every human being on the planet. I think of the planet itself.
Yes.
I think of the solar system. I think of the universe.
Yes.
And I think of spirit.
Right.
So
Yeah.
when you're giving love if you're creating love from yourself to all, then you really are connecting yourself with what Tom Sawyer used to call home.
Yeah. Right. That's right.
And that's a great thing to do. That's part of my meditation as well. That's why I kind of latched onto that.
Yeah, that's what I mean by all. That's what I mean, because it's hard to define where that's limited. It's going to all.
So. It's unlimited. Yes.
Oh. I've always been impressed by your rituals and things, Tom. The things we've done in Sedona and Virginia Beach and different places. I've I've never been one for ritual, but or things I've run into, and if I happen to stop into a church for some reason, it's just like, yeah, okay, this is what they do. But for some reason, the stuff you come up with has had meaning and value to me.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I'm glad
Yeah,
it has. Yeah, and I didn't just make it up necessarily. It's just something that came,
right.
from spirit. So I don't take credit for it. I take maybe credit for sharing
Well, we
it.
all know that Santa is a spiritual being, and Santa does not do dogma.
Right. That's
Right,
right. I mean, right.
right.
Yeah, so many of the rituals you tell us that I don't want to use the word made up, but you created, envisioned, whatever, and they had a, a meaning, a power. You could feel feel a process going on through the ritual.
Mm-hmm, hmm. Yeah, the idea is that it's very experiential. You're doing it, and it's not just like I know in some rituals in the church, the people just recite the holy, you
Oh
don't even
yeah,
know what it means half the time.
right.
But it's just something that they do because they have to, they're supposed to, and it's whatever.
Yeah,
Um, but a ritual also we also create rituals of negativity sometimes that people do repeatedly over and over and over again. And so they create the opposite effect or the negative effect by continuing the same patterns. That's a ritual. So it's a matter of stopping that. And it may feel, at first, it may feel like you're contriving it, if you're trying to do something. But if you really get into it and embrace it and do it and feel it, I mean, it becomes very powerful. I remember you mentioned those rituals in one of the sessions after we had been to Egypt, and we were doing those rituals in the King's Chamber. And Mike, you were on that, right, Richard?
no, I was not. I
Oh,
missed
you
that one.
weren't. Okay. Well, anyway, we did this ceremony, and out of that ceremony, one of the things that happened was that a group of folks went into the sarcophagus in the King's Chamber, and they had a rebirth experience, I guess you could say. That was the intention, to go into the sarcophagus and come out of the sarcophagus a new person. So you die and then you're reborn. Just
Yeah.
simply put. And not everybody got to do that because there was the selection process that Dan necessarily had to come up with, because there were 100 and some people on that, and to go through that with 100 and some people would have been complicated. So certain people were chosen to do that, and it was by random, um, supposedly. But once we got back from that trip, um, it occurred to me that we could do it, or on our trip. We went to the ashram in the Lotus Shrine, Satchidananda's ashram there in Charlottesville. And I mentioned briefly that we had been there with Satchidananda and joked around with him and all that. But at that retreat following that, with a group of 25 or 30 of us, we had time to do that. So we reenacted that ceremony. And it just kind of came as something we could do. It wasn't something I had to spend a lot of time planning. It just kind of came to me that this could happen. And then a little bit of planning, of course, to set it up. And Carol came in significantly into this with me, because I had her be what Dan did. I had her do what Dan did. Because I felt that she, I don't know if to say needed, but I thought it would be helpful or strengthening for her to be doing a power play, to be doing something of power, to be empowering. I guess that's the word I would want to say. To be empowering others, because she always does do that. Of course, we haven't seen Carol. You probably have, Richard, more than. But I felt like it would be empowering for Carol to be in the position of being the one who was the initiator.
Yeah.
To do the initiation for us, and so there was an ulterior motive there on my part to have her be in that position without making a big deal out of it. But it was obvious to me that would be healing and helpful and empowering for her to be in that position, given who she is, what she's had been through.
Did you get to lay in the sarcophagus?
No, but Jeff and I were in the ceremony in the King's Chamber the whole time.
Yeah.
So we had a unique position. And one thing that I asked Jeff about, not Jeff, but Dan about this when the time came, he actually brought it up. He said that some of us didn't really need to do that. We had already had that kind of experience and didn't need to go through that particular ceremony again for our rebirth.
Right.
So it would have been just taking up space, for somebody else to go through it. But we had the unique experience of playing, and I did, of channeling music for each person that went into that ceremony and laid in the sarcophagus. So with flute and with bells and with chimes and with gongs and humming and whatever else we did, I was able to express a musical enhancement to the process they were going through. So I was a part of each person's initiation in that sense. And that was a very special gift, to actually be in it. I mean, that was a unique gift. So the only ones that had that experience were the initiator, Dan in that case, and then Jeff and I, as being the music portion. So initiation through music, that's my part.
Right. Carol
Richard,
had.
do you have a couple of techniques you want to share, and then I can follow you?
Let's say something. You were going to say something about Carol.
Yeah, Carol had got a chance to lay in the sarcophagus, and she allowed herself to be distracted by noise that other people were making in the King's Chamber at the time. And Tom had said if she had been able to set that aside, release that distraction, ignore it, whatever that, she'd have gotten to another level spiritually. And what I noticed, I think the reason he offered that to me is I was saying to him that after that trip, her newsletters changed. They had a deeper feeling, not just a dialogue of we went here, we did this, but there was a deeper feel. I don't have a better word for it. A deeper feeling in it. It was more meaningful than just the group went here, the group went there, then we ate. More than just a travel log.
Well, I think also this experience that we had was just pretty close to closely after that.
Yep.
And it could, that in addition to whatever happened to cause that, I felt like the event that we did with that ceremony had a powerful effect on the people that went through it. I mean, we spent all morning doing that. We dressed up in our white. We did the whole ceremony basically, with each person coming in, all of us holding them in our embrace of love, them going through, lying down on the floor, going through the motions of the same. You don't have to go to the king's chamber to do this. You
Yeah.
don't have to go to Egypt. You don't have to go anywhere to do any of this stuff. It can be enacted wherever you are in the simple exercises or things that I've just shared for in a ceremony that you can create yourself for empowerment and for, I would encourage people to make up their own, to create
Yeah.
and to sit with spirit and let one develop and because that speaks to you. It's
Yeah.
really
Right.
personal. But I felt like that experience that we had, the people who went through that were rippled. we got rippled from that.
Rippled. Yeah. As I say, I've always been impressed with the rituals you come up with and stuff. But the things for me, befitting my frame of mind, are the stuff I come up with is far more simple-minded.
But that's okay. It's what
It has to
you're
be
just
okay.
simple-minded.
That
You
gets through
just
the other
face it.
stuff.
Yeah.
It fits me real well.
Yeah. Whatever
But
works.
yeah, exactly. I find that if I'm in some kind of emotional turmoil, to get quiet, it most often happens at the end of the day, and I'm uh, in bed, ready for sleep, but I'm not really ready for sleep yet. So uh, I'm just looking at myself and saying, where am I? What is it I'm doing? And trying to be honest, truly honest about that. Like what are the thoughts going through my mind? What did whatever's going through your mind, if it's going over and over and over again, that's your mantra, right? As you were saying, you got to say no to that stuff, and so I identify that, and then say, okay, what then do I need? And I'm asking upward, outward, to the universe, God, the Almighty, whatever. What do I need? What's fitting for me? And at that point, try and attain a sense of openness.
Right.
If I find I look at where is my priority. Am I prioritizing what's going on in my head, or am I prioritizing what I feel in my chest? And I try and let go of this and refocus down here, just to see how does my heart feel, and just to have that connection. Uh, and the more clearly I can do that, the more the useful, helpful comments will come. Like, oh, okay, not that, but this, or I don't know, maybe something I'll have to say to someone, or something I'll realize about myself. um, one of the uh, one of the problems I'm dealing with right now is one of my granddaughters is autistic and has quirks and oddball things that can be really disconcerting. That can look very hurtful to other people, or hiding of herself. And what I find I do is ask myself to be loving of her as she is, with all of that in place. Simply be loving, to feel it, to put all my focus and my priority in my chest, and be open and accept her as is. And then the next helpful thing will come to mind. And that's what I tend to do in general with different people or myself is once I've connected here, gotten out of my head and connected down here, and hear that sense of openness, then the next useful, helpful thing to say or do comes to mind. And then my head gets into gear how to find a time for that to happen. You know, am I going to meet this person? Am I going to see this? Am I going to, I don't know, whatever. But it's putting the head in service to the heart, getting things the heart wants done rather than the head trying to figure it all out and get it done. So that's the simplicity that appeals to me and works for me. That's it.
Uh, but that's a great lead in to me, Richard, for several reasons. And I'll come back to that in a moment because I want to commend you on one of the things. No, I'll start with that. There's a thing that you do that's very healing, and healing, I think, can take many different forms on it. And you send out a weekly email, Sundays, about I'm not even sure what words I use to share the topic, but they're all very spiritual.
The simplest way to say it is I send out whatever I've been working on.
Yeah. Well,
That's
and
the topic.
that's great. That's how it comes to you. But you do
Yep.
that. And in addition to that is during the week, Tuesdays, this is where there's certain people that get hugs, right? And hey, let's send out hugs. And I recall on many occasions, you'd send out the email back, somebody had sent out about, hey, thank you, certainly felt some extra special vibes that night or whatever. And
Yeah.
then there's the special prayer requests. And so um, I just want to commend you for that because to me, that's a real hard thing that you're doing that really solicits the healing energy from anybody and everybody that wants to participate, out. And there seems to be a collective input. So that's a wonderful gift that you do. And I think it is a structure, a discipline that you do. But it's also interesting. So first of all, thank you for doing that. I think that that's something that has been, I've seen many people comment and respond to that. I felt it myself too. The other thing that you shared early on is I can very much relate to it. And I wonder if that's sort of characteristic of our past of having more traumatic kind of backgrounds is that you said there's really no, you're not one for structure or I forgot what the word is. And I can very, very much relate to that too, because I've never really had it. It's whatever's the flavor of that day, that moment, the video I'm watching, the teacher, whatever. And I enjoy it all. And I can very much appreciate it. And I wonder if that comes from our mutual past or just maybe totally coincidence, not sure. The other thing that I just wanted, feel free to comment if you wanted.
Yeah, just to jump in real quick there, something that suits what we've all said at the moment, been saying tonight, is a comment from Buddha, that to um, to continue doing a spiritual exercise which served you in the past is to continue carrying the raft after you've crossed the river. So what I'm hearing is in each of us with Bruce and Tom is the the attending to what is needed now. You know, the things Bruce was talking about, which in my simple mind I've lost some of, and Tom's rituals. Tom creates the rituals in service to the moment that's coming. Not well, this worked before, so let's do it again. It's much more honest and authentic than that.
Well, it's not that you can't do something that you've done before. because it
Right.
can function. But the first part of the process is to empty.
Yeah.
So, because once you get that spirit coming through you, these ideas come from spirit, and it's not the same every time.
Yeah.
In other words, the process just is to open up and to allow the cycles of life,
Right.
the giving, the receiving, the letting go, the receive, and
Yeah.
once that opens up, that's not the same for every person.
Right.
It's very unique, and that might, that opens up the door, Pandora's box. Sometimes opens up the door, to then for the new, for the
Pandora's
moment.
other box.
Yeah,
Yes.
right. But I find that for me anyway, it even though it's and as I say, it's evolved because just in the last since last week, I added another whole dimension to it.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of saying, okay, here's a technique that somebody can use, because not everybody operates the same way. Some people need a technique,
Yeah.
and that's
Right.
okay. If that's the way
Right.
you are, use the technique, but don't get hung up in it.
Yep.
This technique is a process, but the idea of it is to get to the place where you are in the moment, where you are in the now, where
Right.
you are in the awe,
Yeah.
where you are expressing, and there's no particular judgment about what you're giving. It's just spirit. Because every breath we take is a ceremony. Every breath we take is a ceremony, is a ritual. The daily, we get up in the morning, we do our thing, that's a ritual. We go to, as Bruce put in a little note to us, carry wood. In the rock you'll find me. Here, Jesus said this, that you'll find me in the daily grind. I'm there in everything. So and so the ritual is to be open to that, is to see it as a ritual, see every act of your life as a sacred moment, and to act on that, and to treat it as a sacred moment. So if you're doing something you don't feel good about, is that what you're creating? You want to keep creating that, a negative thought, an anger, so, yelling at somebody, yelling at your kid, eating something is not good for you, whatever it might be. That's a ritual. So it's a matter of choosing the things that nurture, things that feed all of us, the things that are healthy and positive.
Well, and I also want to say something about ritual and defensive ritual.
Right.
They definitely have a place. I think that you're right. Every living moment could be viewed as our own ritual. We're all different. We all have our own different ways of going about life. But each moment gives us another opportunity, not to find an answer, but to make a choice. That's what life's all about, is making choices. And for me, what ritual represents, and I'm going back to the Reiki thing. If you want to learn how to practice Reiki, as Dr. Usui taught it, there are certain rituals that you must learn in order to do it. And for me, the reason for the ritual is to give you the mental discipline. Not everybody, some people can, but not everybody just sit down and have instant focus, instant mental discipline to accomplish such a spiritual thing. So what ritual is there for is it gives you a structure. It gives you a method of obtaining the necessary mental discipline to do it. So certainly ritual has its place, but it's always a work in progress, like you say, Tom. It can always evolve, and as we evolve, our needs change. No, I don't want to carry a raft over a mountaintop, of course, but but it's good to know where that raft is.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway, Michael,
Michael, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
Yeah, a great conversation. And we'll probably need to continue on the topic. But anyways, I just wanted to, first of all, thank you, Richard. And I appreciate that thought, Bruce. I guess I've, I'd say for myself as one of the reasons why I really love the priesthood, because that gave that ritual. And outside of that, there was not a lot of the ritual available, right? Unless I, made it up myself and stuck with it. But I enjoyed it because there I found that sense of ritual, which was a big part of the priesthood to me. The other quick thing that I'll share, and then I've got a couple of techniques share is Tom, I believe this is the sarcophagus. Is that right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so interesting story on this so I was not selected to be in here, but yet I'm in it. And so characteristic of me, is just that, okay, I've spent a life in business and career, and there was always sort of the inner circles, and then, and I allowed that to be, and I'm not referenced that in a demeaning way. They're just, there is, it's how things work. And so, but I really wanted to be there. I felt so called to really be there. So after everybody had left, I stayed in the pyramid. And I went to this place and I did it myself. And being in there, which was a pretty neat experience. But again, that was just characteristic. But this gives a nice reference to what you were sharing.
Yeah.
The first technique that I have is this. Can anybody pronounce this?
Ho'oponopono.
You know it?
Yeah.
Oh my God. I just Googled it before I did it because I had learned this along the way and I had no idea. And I typed in the words that I share. And sure enough, here it is. And then it came up with this name and I said, oh my God. I said, okay, I've heard of that. So anyways, I'm gonna stop sharing here. But the essence of it, to me, it needs to be simple. And it really just comes, what challenges me from the trauma past, and I went through this for years in counseling, the mind is very active and the heart is tough to get to. And it's been through the years with respect to the spiritual awakening, I really began to open up the heart. So I found that what I did, I really needed something simple that I could really do, but do really from the heart. And this was the power of that statement for it. And I learned along the way, apparently there's some history and stories about a psychologist herself who had used it, who had struggled with patients. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Very good. And
Yeah. He was given charge of a psychic ward with the worst of the worst, and he never actually visited any of the patients, but would look at their sheet and say those four statements. Recognize that whatever he found in them, he had a part of that as well. So he would say, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. And do that as honestly and thoroughly, deeply as you can with every single person. And pretty soon everyone was cured and walked home. That's the basics of the story.
And it's a great, thank you for putting it. I heard that and I said, I like that. That's something simple. And so I can wrap my arms around it and get it. And I love the wording for it because it really resonated with me. And I put it into practice and I still do today. And whenever there's a disruption, a challenge between a relationship, a medical, anything, it makes it simple. I just simply resort to that phrase. And I can definitely say that I've had confirmations of it working. for the fact that things have turned around. Now, it was, it goes back to that whole discussion. Is that ego or is it really, well, it's happened enough times that I feel, okay, there's merit there. And I think that really represents the value of these kinds of healings. It's the intention, more so than anything else. But I did receive, confirmation in terms of the situation's improving on a number of cases and practice it. And so it's the, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. And I'll repeat it. And then after, I just do it 10 times. I'm not sure if that came from the psychologist or psychiatrist or not, but I just repeated, would repeat that. And then when I'm in that moment, I would just think of anybody in my life of which I've had any kind of disruption or issue with, and I would recite that with that too. And then I'd finish it with my own version. So first of all is I say, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, repeating it. And then I'll finish it with saying it to myself. I love me, I'm sorry, in my name, Michael. I forgive me, Michael. Thank you, Michael. And it is a very refreshing aspect to it. So my conclusion on a lot of the healing things is sometimes we need that little bit of a structure. I know I did, because there's a billion different ones out there. And I think it gets confusing. People feel you have to have this one, or this is the right way, or this is the right one to use. And I remember going through that initially. And of course, it just really overwhelmed me, because all I kept doing was trying a million different things and not really doing any kind of steady practice of one. But that's really one of them. And the other one that I find is something really simple, and it just really came from the years of going through counseling and therapy, and they call it talk therapy. And I'm a person that when I am in emotion, and I am feeling it, it is strong and it is ever present. I wear my emotions on the sleeve, and I need to deal with the emotion in order for me to be able to get to a better spot, to be able to deal with it more rationally than emotionally. And so I really am a huge subscriber of talk therapy. And you'll know it, Tom, I've called you, at times. Richard, same thing with you. Bruce, you and me have conversations when things are there. I love the talking through it because it allows me to really get some of that energy out. And that's how I've really come to believe that is that everything is an energy. Emotions are an energy. And if it's something that we want to change the resonance of that energy, to be able to just, in this case, talk through it. And I found that there was a lot to being able to getting it out on that part of it. And I just also just want to say thank you, because that's where the three of you, have been very instrumental in my life, and so many people, because they were on the other end of that phone and they helped and they listened and they patient, as you did, Richard. And you talked about this with the gentleman that you were challenged with trying to work with recently. Is that what you were there? What you were was being that empathetic listener. And so much of what we can just do, one of the most powerful forms of healing that I do, and this is more than anything else, this is to be that empathetic listener. And I found that is just so helpful in helping the other person begin to unwind from whatever the important or critical state that's going on there, to be able to get to a better place for.
Yeah.
Michael, that reminds me of a thing that I learned years ago from Native American teachings and whatnot. That of the talking stick, and the talking stick in a circle that the members of the tribe have a symbolic stick, that they use as the focus. When you have the stick, you have the room. You have the voice. So the stick passes from one to the other, and you can either do it in a circle in your turn or just pass it to whoever's ready. So if you're not quite ready to share yet, some people are on the spot if they feel like, well, I'm next and I'm looking, what am I going to say? And they're thinking about what they're going to say all the time instead of really listening. But if it just goes, you listen, whoever has the talking stick talks and they have the floor and they share whatever they need to share and everybody listens. And then the stick is passed to whoever's ready for the next person and they share. And it can take time. I mean, it can go for a while if you've got a lot to talk about. Sometimes you have to check that, if somebody's going on. But it, anyway, the idea is that you have nobody's going to contradict or judge you, or it's not a question of a discussion. It's not a discussion. It's you have your time to express what's on your heart, and then that goes around the room until everybody's had a chance. And if you don't have anything to say, you don't have to say it. It's not a forced kind of a thing. But that just reminds me of that idea of listening, that you don't always have to have a comeback. And we've talked about that before when we were talking about giving advice. It's not about necessarily giving advice, or it might happen. It's more about allowing the person to discover, because you're really talking, if you really get into that, spirit is talking through us. If we're really open, the way we talk about, the way we're all expressing, is the idea that we are aligning ourselves with our higher self, with our higher good, with the oneness that we all are a part of. And if we were to listen to ourselves, sometimes we might learn something. We might actually, in that talking, a lot of times people resolve their own issues, and that's why they say, wow, you really helped me, and you hadn't said a word. It's like, yeah, okay, that's great. It's good that you realize that you found that message.
Michael, I also wanted to thank you for pointing out that it's very important. Part of healing is to ask for help, to receive help from others to heal. It's not just all on your own. And I think that that's very important, very valid. Now, having said that, I'm sure we've all heard the term personal power, which basically is another way of saying our faith. It's another way of saying, well, okay, in our base chakra, we have our power, but at the same time, it's a reflection of us being our authentic selves. That is what our power is, to be our truth. That is when you are your most powerful. And I think a part of the healing process is grasping that authentic part of yourself, the power of yourself, and being able to use that for your own self-healing as well. So yes, it comes from within, but it also is external from other people too, who we're all one with anyway. I'm sorry, please forgive me. Thank you, I love you. That's why we say that. We're all one.
I think that's the underlying theme here, is at-one-ment or atonement. And with the atonement generally means trying to make up for. At-one-ment, more to be one with. They both end up in the same place. And that theme seems to hold for all of us here tonight.
I think the word forgiveness, if you look at the root of the word, it means to forgive. It's to go before, and the mistake was made. Whatever. I mean, if we don't make mistakes, we don't need to ask for forgiveness, right? I mean, if we were perfect, we wouldn't be running around doing this. But it's because we're in this state that we seem to be in, where we make all these mistakes all the time, and that's how we're learning. We want to go to the point before where there is no mistake, that there is no mistake. You don't have to ask forgiveness anymore. And that's grace. That's when all of our sins are forgiven. Then we can live in that state of not having to ask for forgiveness anymore. I mean, we can be in that perfect place within ourselves. Not that we're there, uh, but it's the attainment of that peaceful place within ourselves where we're not having to ask for forgiveness all the time. You know, I mean, if we're not making as many dumb mistakes as we might have made in the past, you know, let's clear some of that stuff out. I don't want to be apologizing all the time. I want to celebrate life. You know, that's why I feel so bad about going to church in certain churches, that I feel like I'm a sinner all the time. I'm not worthy. This whole idea of unworthiness, being unworthy. I'm unworthy. I'm unworthy. I'm unforgiving. Oh, forgive me. Forgive me. You know, whew, where's the celebration of life in all of that? You know. So, I mean, to look at both, you know, all of that, mix it up a little bit.
Well, fantastic session, and Tom, some great words to conclude it. So if we attainment of atonement equals forgiveness. Did I get that right?
Well, a state of grace, you know, the being in grace, being fulfilled, being happy. You know, it's okay to be happy. So many people are caught up in guilt all the time. They're never happy because they're always thinking about all the mistakes they've made.
Yeah.
Oh, it was a great session. And Richard, I think you captured it really well in terms of just really it's for each of us, it's a willing intention to do this for ourselves, for others, and there's a variety of techniques and ways. Tom, I agree. Richard also shared this in the beginning. I could say again in the beginning of my journey, and envy could be a perceived negative word, but I really envied you, and I say that more of a loving way, because you really amazed me with respect to the rituals that you brought in, the songs and the playing of songs, and you were a key part of um, the priesthood. You know, as far as um, just really to me representing somebody humbly loving who really does a great job of giving, and I just honor that within you as well. You're quiet.
That's a first. You talked Seder right out of his own words.
Yes, but really good. But guys, really good. It's we're at the time here to conclude. Share a thought, and anybody have something to share as a conclusion, please chime in too. Is I think the most important is the intention is it can be any form, any of the one of the forms, any of the million forms, but most importantly to do it to self is probably really important up front, because that's the hardest part, I think. And then to be able to do that and help heal others is one of the other great things that we can do. And there's a variety of ways to be able to do it, as we've talked about. Important thing is to do it in the simple or complex or whatever way that there is. And I think as we look out at the world today, I think that's the essence. We see a lot of pain and suffering, an extreme amount, right? And this is the essence, and this is really why, and I recall the priesthood sort of being called together under Dan's vision, was in part to help heal the world. And we did a lot of very specific acts out there. I see this as a small fragment in terms of what we're doing as a reminder myself and others and whoever the audience may or may not be. If not, it's the intention being sent out to the universe. Is how important it is that we take the time to heal ourselves and to heal the world. And Bruce, you're doing a fantastic. You healing yourself is one of the greatest examples of the power of healing, and you're doing that, and well done. And by doing that, you can better be a teacher to others because you've been there, done that, and you have that experience to be able to refer and relate to. As so many of the great teachers who've walked in our presence and before us have always had. And I think it's really just a matter of healing in some simple way, whatever it is, to be able to begin that healing of self. Remember, the story is one must be able to learn how to clean their own house first before they can teach others to clean their house. And I believe that came from Tom. And if not, he reminded me of it probably 4 million times. But thank you all for sharing the different ideas, techniques. Tom, one thing that I would really love to do, and maybe we could do it on simply a one-on-one session or something like that, is record your specific different approaches to it. And that way it's out there. It's like, Bruce, when you shared out the Abraham Hicks MP3 file. Yes, that's great, right? It's tangible, right? It's something that can reside on my computer now that I can go and play. And I think that's the kind of thing too, is Thomas, is you've got a lot of these techniques that are well worth recording. And maybe we just do that sometime and you prepare yourself, whatever it is, the tools of things, and think about it and let me know. Happy to,
Well,
happy
well,
to
it
just,
goes from extremely simple, like you guys are talking about, to more complex. But it's again, the hope is that by doing these, you start to understand that you can create your own rituals, and it's not that hard to do. So it can be as simple as complex as your mind is, or as you
right.
need.
But there
Because
are also, and the purpose of saying to record you is that,
yeah,
I mean, I really like listening to others. I really
right,
like hearing others. Is what's his name? Andy. He's on Headspace now on Netflix, and he's doing this whole series on meditation. The guy's
right,
a genius with respect to now bringing to the mainstream level this concept of meditation. And he's converted Buddhist and just but practically doing it. And I think that's and as I see it for you, what I'd love to sort of consider is that you have this technique. You also just if there's a room or something that you can really do some of your sound. What an awesome
right.
experience that was to be able to just sit back and listen to that. And these are the things that is if just get them out in these small ways or however. What a great opportunity for somebody else because they do get the chance. People have picked up one or two things from me. Yeah, I'm going to try that. That's what I've done, right? And it works, it doesn't work. Okay, that's how we end up figuring out what we're going to end up doing. But yeah, I'd love to really just have you featured on many of the things that you really did. I know Jeff brings a lot of structure with respect to different techniques and things as well. But anyways, that's really the conclusion is just, we're at a place as we always been probably in life history. We see it out there. There's a lot of healing needed. And we need to just find those simple techniques to begin healing ourselves so that we can collectively continue the process of healing humanity, healing Mother Earth, so that we continue to grow and evolve as an amazing species. Thoughts, comments?
It's healing is doing. It's not being. If it's an active process, you have to be healed. But a healer is a doer of love. It's giving love, doing the love, and that's a key to me. Not just sitting around thinking about it. Not an intellectual.
Richard, Bruce, any thoughts?
That's
Yeah.
wonderful. I just love it.
Yeah. The healer within.
Yeah.
The physician within, heal thyself. I like that.
Yeah, the phrase you were searching for is Tom claimed was an old Jewish proverb. If you seek to save the world, put your own house in order first.
You know,
Eh,
that reminds
no-
me of, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say another quick analogy is put your own oxygen mask on first before you assist the person next to you.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Well said, Bruce. Perfect. You know, Richard, it reminds me something to consider. But there's a lot, you own an incredible wealth of information related to Tom. And it comes out in bits and pieces as it relates to various conversations. I'm not sure if you have or be interested. Same, like I said with Tom, it would be great sometime to do an individual session of you to just really, from a list of things, in whatever order you come up with, is share sort of your history of experience with Tom and a collection of wisdoms and input. I think that would be an incredible gift to really share with others and do justice to, you know, what Tom really did, who was really the initiator of this whole ripple effect.
Yeah.
Think
Okay.
about it.
Yes.
Start writing it down.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. Well, let's see. Yeah, Richard, you're responsible for how we end these sessions now because you've helped us realize that there's a better way to conclude.
Yeah, right.
That's what comes to mind at the moment. It's been heavy. It's been heavy. I offer you a light heart. God bless you all.
Hey, I love it. I love it.
Yes,
Very
yes.
good. Woohoo! Yes.
I mean, how complicated is that? Yes and no.
It's working. My dog's just started wagging his tail. It's working. Yeah. What? All right, guys. Until next week. Have a great
All
one.
right,
Love
thank you.
y'all.
God bless. Love you all.
You bet.
Bye.
Bye.